So this is the interview for Ambassador John Fashanu, a football legend, uh, in our midst today. He will be talking about a few things and telling us his story generally. Good to see you, Ambassador John Fashanu.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Okay. There's been a lot happening recently with your name being mentioned side by side with the current leader of the opposition in the United Kingdom, Kemi Badenoch. Just yesterday or so, or the early hours of this morning, there was like a lot of viral information going about saying that, explaining why she should embrace Nigeria as a country, because in recent times she has spoken with very strong words against northern Nigeria, saying that she is a Yoruba by tribe and doesn't want to be affiliated with the north, which she called a haven for Boko Haram terrorists. So in a response, a former presidential aide to President Goodluck Jonathan actually, while trying to make an illustration, gave classic examples of why it's important for one to identify with their roots. And in the process, it may have seemed to have made you a point of reference, saying, at the end of the day, after you got rejected by, the world and the British and every other person, you came back to Nigeria. How do you see yourself? Have you always seen yourself as a Nigerian, or did it happen by chance? And can you tell us what your story is?
I think it's great to be here, by the way. I think it's very important that we get this straight. I didn't recognize myself as a Nigerian until I was 17, 18, because I grew up in England. My mother and my father were white because I was fostered. So I didn't have a mother, I didn't have a father. I just had two white people who called me John, which is an English name, and I managed to get Fashanu, but that was not actually my name. I changed it to Fashanu when I knew I was coming home. I was getting more and more excited about seeing Nigeria on the television. And at the same time, my football skills were improving. I was getting older. So now the MKO, the people who make it move, said, this young boy, he talks well about Nigeria, because I was always talking well about my country. Let's bring him into Nigeria and see if he can play. I was a well-known footballer there at the age of 16. So I was on the plane, private jet, MKO Abiola brought me to Nigeria to play my first match with the Super Eagles national team. Unlucky for me, I wasn't even a substitute. I came the second time and I was made a substitute. I came the third time. And by the way, this is at my own expense, because I was a footballer, so I had a little bit of money and I would borrow a little bit from different people then. And I could see that this isn't working. I've been here 3 separate occasions and I haven't literally even got onto the pitch. So I now realized that maybe Nigeria is not for me. I'm already playing in the English Premier League and I'm not playing for my country. 3 weeks later, I was asked to play for England. I didn't say no. I said yes, certainly. Football is football. And I had no reason to even reject them. So I played for England. First time, I played for England the second time, I played for England the third time. Now, for me, that was the happiest moment, because that said, John Fashanu, you are one of the best players in England. Not Nigeria, but in England. I was lucky. I saw myself as being very lucky, very privileged, because everything to me was Nigeria. Now, let's just get one thing straight. And I know people will say, oh, this. The coach, who was the coach then, before he selected the players, he would ask for money. And nobody can say, oh, that's not true. He did.
Are
And
you talking about the Nigerian coach at the time, the
the
national coach at
Nigerian
the time?
national coach at the time. I
Wow.
will leave the viewers to remember whether he was a Nigerian coach or he was from Sweden or he was. I'm not going to go into that. But the coach always wanted Benjamins. We're used to that. There's nothing new. I'm not saying that Nigeria is a horrible country because we ask for money. No. But at that time, I said to the coach, Coach, I don't have money. I was brought over here by MK, the late MKO Abiola. I have no money at all, so I can't give you any money. And I believe very strongly that was the reason why the first time I was benched. That means substituted. The second time I was substituted. And the third time I was substituted. Nobody will say to you, oh, John Fashanu didn't want to play for his motherland. That was my dream. That was the reason why I didn't play for the under-20s in the England team, because I had a love of my country. And I think it's very important that everybody understands. Most of my brothers, most of my sisters were all here in Abeokuta. So I knew what I was doing, and I knew when the time was right to get out.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So your roots has always been Nigerian. Can you tell us a little bit about your history and how you're affiliated to Nigeria, given that you were born and raised by white folks?
I was, yes. I was born by my mother and father, who were Nigerians, which is great to say, but I was abandoned. At 3, I was left in London. My mother stayed there, but she left us, but my father came back home. Now, it's not bad because he just left us there, because he did it with my older brother as well, and another brother. So he was somebody who was
your
used
older
to...
brother, Justin.
Justin.
Right. Okay.
And of course, most of you, the viewers, will know Justin, who sadly passed away, but he was the first black 1 million football player, which was fantastic. I was in a Bernardo's home, and for those of you who are watching who don't know what a Bernardo's home, it's a house where you stay and white people look after you. So that is where I was. That was where I was born. And a black lady came from nowhere and said, look, I'm going to look after this boy, John. Wonderful. She took me to her house in London and looked after me for years and years and years, and really did a good job on that. And allowed me to have access to my real mother. So if my real mother would come and visit us, she would give her access and she was fine. There was no problem at all with that. So I knew my roots.
Oh, great. So what you're telling us, the viewers, or what you'll be telling the viewers basically is that you've always known your roots to be Nigerian, and you've always wanted to play for Nigeria, but there were circumstances evident, that were working against you being a full-time Nigerian player.
Well, let's be straight and let's be very direct and honest. I didn't know that I had any roots. Forget roots, because I didn't know whether I was black, I didn't know whether I was white, I didn't know what I was. Because as I've said, I was a young black Nigerian being brought up by a white family. My speech now is because that's been with white people so long. So of course it was an advantage later on in my life. But there and then, no. And I must say, when I was at school and I was at college, I actually thought, as crazy as it is, that I was actually a white person with them, because I'd never been with blacks before. There was just 2 of us, Justin and John. And we came up in a school of 400 people. We were the only blacks.
Wow, what city was that?
Attleborough in Norfolk, near Norwich City in England.
Wow. So at what point did you, did the topic of race start to play out in your head? At what point did you, start to see yourself as black and identify with black communities and black people?
Well, this is bit which I think is very important for other people that are very similar. I noticed that you will think this is bizarre, but why was it that I had flat feet? Why was it that I was a different color? Why was it I felt that I was different to the white boys at school? And why is it that all the time I was being racially abused, which I didn't realize that was what was happening when I was at school? So I started to put one and one together, two and two together, and realize that I'm not one of you guys. I'm over there. I'm not white.
Legendary footballer, Ambassador John Fashanu, and he's giving us an exclusive and telling Nigerians and the world indeed
My history.
his story. So thank you, Ambassador. At what point I need to, this is something that I don't want to miss. At what point did you actually start to realize that you were not a white person, that you were black? And at what point did you find the need to trace your roots and maybe identify with the black community?
Great. When I got to 15, 16, I realized that there was a challenge here. I realized that small things were coming up. I noticed that, funnily enough, my feet were flat. All the white children had arches in their feet. Small things I'm noticing. And I noticed that I'm a lot stronger than most of the white boys, even in our classes and other classes, because I'm built like that. And I noticed that these things were very different to what? I would always put cream on my body, always put some cream on. The white boys would never put anything on their bodies. So there was a gap there, there was a difference, and it was starting to come out, and I was starting to actually feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I can remember vividly coach saying to me, Fashanu, go in goal. Go in goal? Coach, I'm not a goalkeeper. I'm a midfield man or a striker. And that was because he saw that I was faster than all the white boys. And so he put me in goal. That way I didn't embarrass everybody so much. Otherwise, I was taking on 3 or 4 players all the time because blacks are a little bit physically stronger than whites. Gotta say it.
Interesting. So, what happened between, I believe your brother Justin's career started off first and then yours came after.
Yes.
Was your football interest in football and everything inspired by Justin's fame and success, or,
Well, Justin was the first black £1 million player in the world. So that inspired me. But his way of life was very different to mine. And in actual fact, as brothers do when you're 1 year apart, we started the fight thing, where you're arguing constantly, you're fighting constantly, and you don't get on. He's now a £1 million footballer for Nottingham Forest. I'm trying to get my head in to get a club, which in the end I got Norwich City, but not for the same sort of money that he got there. And at the same time, football is about money. Sometimes you can go in there as a black young boy coming in from Nigeria at a small age. My direct target was not football. My direct target, and let me be honest, was money. I noticed when I score a goal, I get paid £1,000. So it's better that I'm scoring goals because I'm getting richer. That was the way my mentality was running then, because I had seen poverty. I hadn't seen riches. Everything was poverty, poverty, poverty.
Interesting. So, given that you had seen money and you were making all that money, why would you have thought about coming to Nigeria at any given point in time? And at what point did you start to identify with, openly and strongly with the black community?
Yeah.
Because everywhere you go across Africa, there's hardly any president that didn't want to receive you.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Tell us, what was the connection? You met a lot of these presidents, some 47. Of them still living. 47 presidents.
47 presidents.
Wow.
53 African countries.
Wow.
And I can remember coming home. When I say home, coming to Nigeria now with bags with money in the back of them, because most people satisfy you and make you happy by giving you money.
By giving you money, right? So at what point did you start to connect with African presidents, and what was the motive behind it?
I think that the key factor was
it because you were rejected by the world?
Well, I wasn't rejected by the world. It was actually they accepted me beautifully. Mm-hmm. I did a television show called Gladiators. That was the second largest television show in the world, with 20 million people watching it. That was just after I finished football. So I wasn't rejected in any way. And the beautiful thing about it was that presidents, when you are introduced to presidents, always give you money. Whether you like it or not, they will give you money. So I went on this campaign of going to country to country to country to country. Beautiful. So many countries I went to, meeting different presidents. And they all knew John Fashanu. And they all saw it as somebody who is well known. So the treatment was first class. If I look now and I wonder, how did I get 12 houses in Nigeria?
12 houses?
So I think that to myself sometimes.
Wow.
What am I doing with 12 houses? Well, it was one of the presidents who gave them to me. Sometimes I think, well, how did I get that academy? And because that was another president who gave me a whole lot of things. And I think, wow.
What did you think that these presidents saw in you, and what could they have been expecting from you, being
the
all friendly?
Yeah, I'm a friendly guy. I don't have any issues. The good thing was then I was one of the very few black players, African players, who was succeeding in England, scoring goals, doing crazy things, being able to speak the Queen's English, which they liked so much. And they put their arm around me and said, Fash, you're the man. We like you. You do nice things. You don't have issues with money. You don't steal. You don't do this. You don't. So, of course, most presidents would give you a bag full of this, another one full of that. Do you think I'll say no?
47 presidents.
Yeah. 55 actually presidents. I've met 45. Wow. That's a lot. And I can remember the presidents that I met were so nice, so pleasant, and every time.
Do you remember some of the notable presidents that you met?
Well, the number one has got to be the MKO Abiola. It was absolutely amazing.
He was a presidential candidate. I think he was made president after his death.
Yes.
And awarded a
wonderful
posthumous honor.
Mugabe, wonderful. Oh, so many. And the way through was just like a hot knife on butter. Just straight through. Hey, John Fash, how you doing? Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. That was absolutely amazing. The FA Cup final, 1988, we won. That is the biggest domestic trophy in the world. And we played against a team called Liverpool. They are the best team in the world. Well, my club, Wimbledon, we beat them. And I was the captain. So for that alone, it sent messages around the world. Wow, they can do it. And all I spoke about when I was being interviewed was Nigeria. I got to go home, guys. I'm going home, because I was just literally staying there for a little while. I now saw that as my home.
At the time what you were saying is that at the time when you were at the peak of your stardom in England,
yes,
you had Nigeria in mind.
Oh, definitely. I was playing for a means. Everything I was playing when I was playing football. One of the reasons why I transferred from Norwich City to Aston Villa was because every time I score a goal in my contract, I get paid £2,000. Well, that money that I was scoring meant that I'm going back home pretty soon. And my home was Nigeria. I wanted to explore my country. It was pretty obvious that I was just a tenant in England, but a well-paid tenant, well-known tenant. But the reasons why people ask me, how is it that you're 61, 62, yet now I can take 3-4 people on and give them a hell of a battering? Because I was always scared in England. I had to learn the martial arts. I had to learn and make sure that I had martial arts, and I had 3-4 different black belts in martial arts.
Wow, black belts.
Black belts in martial arts. And I knew how to use firearm. And today I'm registered as a police officer in this country, our beautiful country, in Abuja. And I'm registered here because I saw a lot of violence, because there was a lot of violence if you didn't have money and have somebody with you all the time. So I was always very keen to save my money so I can go back home. That was my dream, saving my money. Forget what I'm saying. All I wanted to do was to get back home. I saw this as my home. And I had more and more of my friends were now coming back into Abuja, coming back into Lagos. And I was loving it. And I felt that I wasn't ostracized anymore. I'm black like everybody else. In this room, I can say a horrible thing about blacks and nobody knows who I'm talking about. We're all black. So it's not even a horrible thing we said because we're all black and I happen to be black. But in England, it's a war. Every day was a war. Every night was a war. Just walking from one shop to another shop, I have to fight my way often. John Fashanu, you black, this, and we go into a battle again, here we go. It's just the way it was. A successful black man in England doesn't go down too well. So I saw this is the time for me to move, equate England and go back to the motherland. And I did. And I made the right decision. Every day I pat my wife on the back, I say, babes, we made the right decision. Best thing ever. And up to now, it has been.
So, let's talk about football in motherland. What's your take on the current situation of the football industry in Nigeria? And how would you rate the NFF and the general management team for our football in Nigeria?
Well, I've been very direct.
Yeah.
And I've said it as it is. We cannot continue to keep on giving jobs to people who have no business in this country. Doesn't work. We have an opportunity to bring in players who have been in the Western world, got great coaching skills, and are Nigerian. And I'm one of them. So you can't miss me and say, oh, we want to have somebody from Sweden. We want to have somebody from France.
Why do you think that's been done?
Because they're scared.
Okay.
Because the black man always looks at the white man and says, oh, he's better than me. He's better than me. It's a thing which goes on all the time. And by the way, I used to have it when I was at school. Mm-hmm. Every time I see a white man, oh, he's better than me. This is what drives us down. It does not make sense to have somebody from Sweden, somebody from Brazil, who wherever it might be, and bring him back into the motherland and expect him to coach the Super Eagles. It doesn't work.
Do you think it has helped, getting foreign coaches? Don't you think our football would have been worse if we had, black people?
No, not at all.
Locals
I'm very vehement on that. No, even if our football is different, that's okay. What we don't want is the Western world coming into Nigeria, eating the money, eating everything, and then leaving when they're ready. That's got to stop. If it's not me who will start doing that, it will be our children, because this has got to stop. We're always second class. I always say, hey, the guy's good. And then you see a white coach who's been coaching them. Is that necessary? It's not necessary, guys. We have wonderful players who are waiting to be coaches. Nwankwo Kanu, you have JJ Okocha, you have so many of us. And by the way, I put myself in a position and I say that, hey, I should be a manager because I've been in the Western world all my life. And now I'm coming home, and I've been home now 16 years. I think I'm the person who's got what it takes to manage the Super Eagles. Of course, there's going to be a backlog. There's going to be kicking and, oh, Fashanu did this. Remember, he's a horrible person. Well, we expect that.
What do you think would come to the minds of people? Fashanu did what?
Oh, Fashanu, he was not wanted in his own country. He was not this. Fashanu now wants... Oh, we're used to that. That's football. Is it not when I get onto the pitch, I cross that white line, everybody starts screaming at you? Yeah, you're this, you're a nigger, you're this, you're that. I'm used to it. And I'm used to exactly what they'll say here. When you now put your hand up and say, Super Eagles, that's my job. That's what I'm going to do.
So you think you have what it takes to steer the Nigerian team to
No, let me get
excellence.
it very right. I don't think, that's a horrible word, I know. There's no thinking, I know. That is my job. I've done it with many clubs now. And now you want an Englishman. So you want an Englishman? You've got an Englishman. Now you want a black Nigerian. You want a black Nigerian? I'm a black Nigerian. You got the two of us. And all I've done for 35 years is play football and be coached. So now why would you want somebody else? I'm globally known throughout the world. So why would you want somebody else? Doesn't make sense.
So if you had a message to Mr. President, I'm sure Mr. President is really keen on restructuring the football in Nigeria. And so he has actually collapsed the Ministry of Sport.
I see that, yeah.
And then allowed the National Sports Commission to take over.
What would I say to him?
Yeah, what would you say to him? How can we get football?
Mr. President, it's time. It's time, Mr. President. We are not going to settle.
You should speak to Mr. President.
Mr. President, you know me well, I know you well, very well, and my best wishes are there. But this is the time, Mr. President. Super Eagles is my job. I'm there for it. I'm there. I've played all over the world. I've seen success. We won the FA Cup 1988. Nobody else could win it. And guess what? I speak English and everybody speaks English. It makes no difference. So there's an opportunity for somebody who's known throughout the world. It's me. If you can find somebody, then bring us all in and we'll all work together. But this time, we are not bringing somebody in from Spain, from Sweden, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
So do you think that has played a role, bringing people from Spain, Sweden and the other places? Do you think that has actually played a role to weaken the morals of our footballers?
Definite.
Okay.
There's always been a communication battle. Even when I'm with some of my staff in my house, sometimes I'm not hearing exactly what he said or she said. Sometimes even when I get my food, she says something, cooking my food, and I didn't quite understand it. You said you were doing me 3 eggs, and now I see I've got 6 eggs. That was because I didn't understand it. It's my fault. But because I don't want to look like the donkey, I'll say, why didn't you tell me? Why are you wasting all these food? This is exactly what's happening in football. Coach comes onto the pitch, he doesn't speak English. The translation is not there. We cannot translate while we're running on the pitch. We must speak the same language. It's very important. And for now, let's find somebody who was a hero. Let's find somebody who has done something in football. You're bringing over coaches who've had no pedigree whatsoever. You were a coach for what? Where? When? How long? Those days have gone, please. You put somebody like JJ, Kanu, Fashanu, some of the big boys who know what it is to see and to know success. Taste success. And we know what failure is as well. You put us together, that's a heck of a team. That's what I'm expecting from Mr. President.
Oh, that's great. And then what do you think? Do you think the state governors, play any role in this bid to develop sports as something that we should do nationwide, especially football? What do you think the state governors from 36 states across Nigeria are doing enough to promote football as a sport in Nigeria?
Well, we were before, years ago, football was something which we were advertising everywhere. It was massive. I couldn't go anywhere without people knowing me. But now that is dried off, that's gone. Now I think the presidents, governor will look at it and say, oh, okay, yeah, fine. There is a need to fire this up again. There is a need to see the best Nigerian players going into Europe because they can hold their own now. Woo, we've got some fantastic players playing in the Premier League now. But who talks about them? Nobody even cares anymore. One or two, well, good luck to them. But it's not how it used to be. This country was a country of players. Sport, badminton, tennis, basketball, oh my goodness me. We had a head start.
Do you remember legends from your time?
Oh, Finidi George, yeah. Nwankwo Kanu, JJ, of course. My favorite player, and I say that because he's my favorite player, but the worst player if you play against him, was JJ. JJ was amazing. Wow. He could do things which you just never seen before. And, for that reason, when I cross the white line onto the pitch, I've got to show him that I don't like him. If I'm not calling him names and saying horrible things, he will make me look like a second-year school teacher. JJ was fantastic. That is the type of people we're looking for now. We're looking for, even in my academy, which is here, where I have John Fashanu Sports Academy, I'm looking for the great player. I'm looking for the player who can use his left foot and his right foot. I'm looking at the player one touch, bang, oh lovely. They're the players I'm looking for. And that's what I expect to see when I get back to home now. I get out and I start training. That's what I like to see.
Great. What do you think, about this politics that surrounds the governing bodies for football associations and football federations, both at the local level in the country and at the continental level? Do you think politics and football should be things that are, do you think politics should be brought into governing affairs of football?
Well, if you ask me what I think, I will tell you that politics and...
why I ask,
yes.
Just sorry to cut in.
No,
why I ask is because there have been cases where people felt cheated at NFF at some point in time, perhaps went to court.
Finidi.
And, couple of issues here and there surrounding the Nigerian Football Federation, when we should be talking about bringing medals and winning tournaments and winning all sorts of friendly matches and counting our, what we have, our medals of honor and the rest.
Of course.
Politics,
of course,
has positive or negative impact, and what do you think should be done?
Well, I think you have actually said it yourself. You know that politics and football go together. They merge together. We kill each other, but that's what it is. You can see that you can have a top politician who can be a great footballer, and then he will close everything down. And you think, my goodness me, but that's the thing in football. Anything can happen. And I'm sorry to say that even as a lover of football, sometimes I've seen people who love football and they are actually politicians.
Yeah.
Absolutely politicians. And they've made a decision that to stop that, close that down. That always happens. It always happens. They don't go together, but we always merge them together.
So, what are you projecting for Nigerian football if given an opportunity to come in either as technical, what do you call it now? What's the
technical
post?
Advisor?
Technical advisor.
Sports
where do you think you'll be able to take Nigeria football to?
Well, we've got
as technical advisor.
Number one,
well, I want you to itemize and say, as technical advisor.
Yes.
this and this and that is what
Yes.
I'll be able to do.
As technical advisor, and I hope it's something bigger than that, we have to first of all understand our players. We have situations where we're playing 4-4-2. We haven't played 4-4-2 for years. That's 4 at the back, 4 players in midfield, and 2 up front. Who plays that anymore? Nobody plays that anymore. But I'm astounded when I see we're still playing that. And that's because we haven't moved on. We haven't taken that opportunity. That is why I say, when you have people like myself who've played all over the world, who have seen it all in football, sorry to push myself, but that's the truth, we are waiting to change it round. We are waiting to see the goalkeepers. We are waiting to see the midfield, etc., etc., etc. And I think when you look at our records, you will see there's a minimum amount of us who have that license to be Super Eagles managers.
Great, great. So is John Fashanu of the 80s still the same John Fashanu? Do you feel, now I think you should be in your 60s now, thereabout.
Excuse me, could you whisper that word? 60? That's a bad word.
Okay. So how am I supposed to describe you?
Well, no, you can, of course you can.
Okay.
I'm 60, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You feel
I like
older.
It, that's it. I like it. Okay, now keep it coming.
Do you feel older, given that, you've aged a lot? It's a lot of time from the 80s and the early 90s till now. It's been a lot of time, and John Fashanu is still here, looking all flying young.
Isn't that annoying?
What's the secret to having come this far and still looking very fit and good to go, and having your whistle and going on the pitch every other day and every other Saturday?
It's believe in yourself. If you want to believe you're 60, then sit down over there, please, and believe you're 60 or 70 or whatever. That's fine. Your time will come. But in this instance, 60, I'm still playing. I've just finished playing a match. I just played 90 minutes of a match and enjoyed it and was not tired. And when I get home, I'll do my training again and I'll do a little bit more. That is what keeps me alive. There are so many players, and you get to a certain age, that put on weight, or they can't do it because they've got a bad ankle. Because of that, they'll go to, and you end up, sorry, he passed away. That is not going to happen to me.
So do you think your lifestyle too has influenced your looks and your very strong physique?
Yes.
Do you drink alcohol?
No. Don't drink alcohol. Don't smoke cigarettes. And don't change your wife or your girlfriend too many times, please.
Are you talking from experience?
No, I'm talking to you.
Well, before you leave, what's your relationship with the diplomatic community when it comes to football? And how have you been able to use your platform as a veteran footballer, international football star, international TV star, and what have you to sort of take football to another level? What's your relationship with the embassies, the diplomatic communities, and the Ministry of Youth, basically, that's involved with mobilizing youths and reeling out programs for youths in Nigeria? What's your relationship with the government of the day when it comes to trying to structure football?
Well, trying to structure football anywhere in the world is not easy. But of course, it gives you a lot more energy and a lot more belief when people know you. Oh, Mr. Fash, how are you doing? Yeah, great. Minister of Sport, this one, that one. Everybody wants to try and get to the best, especially in sport, because the truth is, everybody has a bit of a loving for football. So my job as a sports ambassador covers football, rugby, boxing, everything, is to help and assist and use all my wonderful friends, my governors, my politicians, my ambassadors, to use them to the glory of what we're doing. Sometimes I might have to ring up somebody, a very well-known MP, and ask him for some assistance. Well, he's not going to say no because he knows very well that I'm straight and I'm very sound in what I do. If I can't do it, I'll tell you we cannot do it. But the support that I get has been fantastic.
So, I mean, what do you have to say about Nigerian leaders? You've been around them. You could easily pass for a politician yourself. You've been with the class of governors from 1999. You were with James Ibori.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, Lucky Benedion.
Yeah.
The Yaradwas.
Yep.
And
MKO was my man.
And then the rest of them. And then you've also been with presidents.
Yes.
Mugabe, Gaddafi.
Right the way.
Couple of
54
different presidents you met at different times. What's your view on the world and what it's becoming?
It's difficult. It's a difficult world. Let's not skip that. I think everybody understands that. And at the same time, I think even England, USA, they're all struggling now. It's a difficult time. But in sport, we still got that authority. We've still got to say we can still bring in players. Even at my academy, John Fashanu Sports Academy here, where we are now.
Yeah.
When we have a crowd, we have up to 30, 40 different people who are coming in because everybody still wants to love playing football. And so I still work at being kind to people and being nice to people and understanding people, which is very important.
That's great. So, let's digress a little bit from sports. What has life been like for John Fashanu living in Abuja and then transversing the world? What's retirement from active football life like?
Well, sadly, I haven't seen or I don't know that word called retirement. I'm still playing football. I'm still training. I'm still doing the things that I used to do. I've been looked after here. I'm just very, very happy the fact that I came home at that time. Because, as we know, things are not easy in England. I think I chose well and I'm very, very happy. Yeah. And yes, we have challenges here, but they have challenges in every state, in every country in the world. There are challenges. So you've just got to find out which one that you can actually deal with. And if it's this one, then great.
That's good. And then final question. Do you believe in President Tinubu? I mean, it's been a year plus that he has been president. Do you believe in his economic policies? Do you believe in his policies for sports? Do you believe he has what it takes to take this country
back to where it should be?
Yes, please.
Well, let's talk about sport firstly, because that's what I do. 100%. And I'm very wealthy, and I say I'm wealthy of knowledge. When I'm able to speak to the president, which I'm very lucky because of my knowing so many people, it's not about is he a nice man, is he a bad man, is he what he's doing right? I believe what he's doing is right. It's not going to change in one day. It's not going to change in 1 week. Let's just put that up to 6 monthlies, because that's when the change is going to be. And I think that he's going to do it. I think he's waited so long and spoken about the same thing repetitively that he would do for this country. And that's what he's trying to do for this country. So that doesn't always mean that it happens. It occurs. But I said what he's trying to do for this wonderful country.
So you think it's in order for Nigerians to be patient, to buy petrol at the rate they buy it?
It's killing us all.
Yeah.
People who thought we were rich, we're not so rich. It's killing us. Even myself and so many of my wealthy friends, yes. But we believe in Mr. President. We believe in him. And we've got to believe in somebody. If you don't, we're in trouble.
All right. Ambassador John, what do we call you? Ambassador John Fashanu, right?
Call me anything, as long as it's not bloody idiot.
Yeah. So, Ambassador John Fashanu, it's been really nice talking to you. But I mean, is there any area that we haven't really covered extensively in this interview that you would like to use as the concluding part of?
I think we have covered everything. You know, this is when you're coming home, and I say coming home, you're not sure what to expect. The fact now I've been back home now 14, 15 years, wow, it really is my home. And I can honestly say that I'm so much more comfortable here than in England. And that's where I was born. So
Wow.
that's something which means a lot.
That should mean a lot to a lot of people, young people who are now migrating
Yes.
to England for greener pastures.
And we hear it every day. Oh, let's go to Glasgow. Let's go to America. Let's get out of here. Let's go to this one. Slow down. Poverty is everywhere at the moment. Sometimes you've got to stay at home and you've got to help to get rid of what the problems are at home. And that's what I'm a firm believer of.
Wow, thank you, Ambassador John Fashanu. It's been a really great one having you on
Thank you.
our set today. And we've come to the end of the interview.
Oh, let's do another one.
Round of applause for him, please. Thank you.